Limitless Leaders webinar, our Limitless Leaders community, and a couple of representatives from that community. We love to showcase the talent and the gifts that are a part of this wonderful free space where we want to just be an encouragement to each other, because I have realized on this leadership journey that whew, leaders need support. Leadership is hard. It's a lot of work. It can be very taxing mentally, emotionally, physically. There's just so much that a leader is responsible for. You know, when it goes well, they don't get the credit. When it goes wrong, they get the blame. And so, even in my journey, I've recognized that we need support, we need mentorship, we need community to be able to have safe spaces to talk about what it means to be a leader. And so every month we follow a theme in the Limitless Leader community, and on my social media pages, it's all like synchronized. And so every month we have a theme that we follow. And so our monthly webinar follows that theme, our social media posts, and the other encouragement that comes through our WhatsApp group is all on that theme. And so this month, we are focusing on the power of the reset. So this is mid year, and a lot of people start to get anxious when it gets to the middle of the year, because they start to feel like, well, you know, I set these goals for myself at the beginning of the year. I'm just not seeing it. I maybe I nailed some of those targets. I probably didn't nail all that I expected to. I maybe had some obstacles, some, you know, hindrances, some things that I just didn't get to push through the way I wanted to. And so we can kind of get down by the middle of the year and say, oh, you know, this is too hard. I'm not going to be able to make it through, or I'm just not going to try to pick these goals up again. I'm just going to go back to my default setting. And so we want to avoid that. I think it's important for us to realize that we can always reset. We can always just change course, change direction, modify goals and targets, right? And it's not that we're trying to avoid them, but it's that we're trying to be realistic. We're trying to understand our capacity as leaders. We're trying to operate within our reality. And that's just life. It's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to be glamorous. It's not always going to be pretty. But at the end of the day, once you're continuing to be resilient and focused and working toward those goals, and with support, then you know you feel a whole lot better as you're moving toward what's important to you. So I'm very excited to introduce two people from our community who are, of course, amazing leaders in their own right and in their respective communities. And I will introduce them each. So, ladies first, of course. So, I will introduce Raquel Mins, Raquel G. Mins. Let me not miss that initial out, because I know I don't like people that miss mine out. But she is a motivational maven who is passionate about women's empowerment, a wife, a mother of one. Raquel is passionate about living a purposeful whole life as she embraces the call to fulfill purpose. She is the founder of AIMHER, a movement birthed to aim, affirm, inspire, and motivate women to discover, activate, and fulfill their God given purpose in the earth. Raquel is the author of the book Affirm Her, a 31-day book of affirmations, which I have. It's a great book. She's a graduate of Barry University with a master's degree in human resource development. Woohoo! Just like me. Raquel has always had a passion for people, more specifically women. She is a youth and dance leader in her local church. and she's encouraged to live her life to inspire, encourage, and reassure women of who they are and who they can become. Raquel is committed to being a change agent in the earth. So let us give a warm virtual round of applause. Let's see some hearts coming up, some hand claps for Raquel G. Min. And our second special guest is Roderick McKenzie Jr. Roderick McKenzie Jr. is a dynamic leader whose life and career are defined by purpose, precision, and perseverance. With a unique blend of spiritual insight, hands on project management, and entrepreneurial drive, Roderick has built a reputation as a results oriented visionary who inspires transformation in both people and business. He is also a leader in his local church. So let us give Roderick McKenzie Jr. lots of love, lots of hearts and claps. So we welcome them to this platform. Welcome, Raquel and Roderick.
Thank you so much, Simmone, for the warm welcome. Welcome to the Limitless Leaders community as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. Appreciate the great welcome introduction.
Yes, so of course we have to just start off by, we have the bio and we heard that, but we want to hear from each of you really a little bit about who you are in your journey, what's inspired you to take the path that you are taking now. And so I will start this time with Roderick.
Okay. All right. So yes, I've came a very long way, a very long way. I had a lot of personal, goals and dreams that I wanted, growing up. I'm an Asuvian, right? Yes,
Yay!
born and raised. Parents are from Freeport and Grand Bahama. But yes, born and raised here, right in the local now. So I don't live there currently now. I'm currently in Orlando. Happened to start. I'm also married. I didn't put that in my I didn't share that, but I'm also married with one daughter, and looking to have many more kids.
Woo! All right.
Um, but yes, this journey has been, amazing. God has been just the driver. He's been in the drive seat the whole time. He's always really shocked me on, my path. It took many turns. Like I say, when I started, it was all about my will. I had many goals, many visions, but at the end of the day, is what? It's God's will that prevails, right? So through it all, even though it was my intentions to initially become an architect as my background, he took me along the path of I did architecture for a while, work at a few firms. I did my studies at Tallahassee at FAMU. I stayed there for about 6 years. Got two bachelors, one in bachelor's of arts in architecture, and also a bachelor's of science in architecture, and then I got a master's in facilities management. And doing all of that, everything shifted within that space because how did where did business come from, right? If I came from just focusing on those specific areas, how did I get into business? And like I say, it was pretty much a move of God. He allowed the right people to come into my circle. I connected with the right people, and every my life transformed from there. When I saw, I can say it like this, when I saw what I could achieve in business, it was kind of, I wouldn't say instant, but it was a gradual transition. I gradually lost my interest in architecture. And even with my current job now, I'm in construction. I got a master's in facilities management. So even though I do all of those things, right, in the career-wise, my heart is truly in entrepreneurship. And that's because I met the right people. They introduced me to the right system. And that system just opened my mind to say, hey, I can do whatever I put my mind to. Um, Initially, it started, of course, with I'm sure you guys have heard of network marketing before. Amway in particular was where it started. And when it started right there, if you learn everything from within the network marketing space, you could actually do business in any space. All the books you read, the mentorship, the how they do with scheduling, you learn it all. So that's how it really picked up and how I got to where I am now. I'm currently, like I say, a project manager. It's really called a capture manager because I'm responsible for getting all of the, new projects, for the company. And yeah, so it starts there, and then as it goes on, it would go on into I would go on into, like I say, my entrepreneurship with the personal businesses. I'll dive into more of those later on. I don't want to just give everything up front, but yeah, just share a little bit about myself.
Awesome. That's great. Yes, we want to hear more about that as we talk tonight. Raquel, tell us about your journey. What has brought you to this place where you are so committed and passionate to uplift, inspire, affirm women and girls?
Thank you so much, Simmone. So unlike Roderick, whose journey, it started off with him wanting to do something and now he ended up somewhere else. I think I almost was born to do what I'm doing and was doing it from such a young age. So my journey started as a young girl. I grew up in church, always was in church. And I was always a youth leader, always, I was consider myself, I was always the shoulder. So everyone got to lean on my shoulder. Everyone got to share their tears on my shoulder. So I was always the strong friend. And this transpired into youth leadership, dance leadership. So I was always a leader in some aspect or the other. So this then charted the course for my life, and which I think my life evolved into what it was purposed to do. And it was to become or to be a motivational person for women. So I was always around young girls, motivating that type of stuff. So my journey started very young in teen ministry at my local church. And it stemmed to the point where when I got into, I think, senior school, I said I want to do HR. Now, I didn't know what around me did HR. I just knew HR was that's the people's career, right? So I was like, okay, I wanted to be in HR. This was grade 11, grade 12. I could still find my school's, the graduation booklet, and Raquel's profession was HR professional from then. However, I've just moved into the role of HR, but it was always a passion of mine. I did, at the time, I went to COB at the time, though they didn't have a bachelor's in human resource. So I did business management, still won this HR degree. Anyway, long story short, I ended up going to Barry and I got my master's in it. But it took me a while. I got my master's in 2019. I wasn't working in HR yet at the time, but my employers know that HR was my end goal. So they pretty much groomed me there. Then the pandemic came, the move there didn't happen. Life happened, but then I realized it wasn't my time. It was God's timing. God's timing is perfect. We tend to want to rush things, but God said, you weren't ready yet. Let me put you in the oven a little bit more, that type of stuff. But now I'm in HR and I function, and this is where I find that my purpose then matched my career, then matched my passions. It's like everything was intertwined, aligning with who I was, who I am to be in the earth. And this is why I said I think this was something that I was born to do and born to be, because nothing, no ministry, no career path, no entrepreneurship goal, it stemmed me differently. Nothing stared me away. Nothing pushed me in a different direction. Everything was always people centric, always lifting someone up, always the encourager, always the motivator. And I am just blessed to be that person. So here today as a leader, standing in this position, saying, what's next?
That's amazing. I think you are one of very few people that I've met in this field who actually wanted to be in this field, like from the
Wow.
get-go. A lot of us kind of just ended up in it somehow. Something kind of
You
led
are
us to
correct.
it, and we discovered, oh, this human resources thing, what is that? Right? Because I know that's how I got into it. So it's really amazing. And that's one of the things that I find very encouraging about what I do in terms of helping people to discover their purpose, because when you can find it at a very early age, it really helps to set the course of your life, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that when you don't, your life is not as
Mhm.
good. It's
Mhm.
just, it takes a lot of the challenges that you may have when you're discovering, right? Like I always like to say my life is like this winding road that finally took me to where I wanted it to be. And I think some of us have to go through that.
Mhm.
But I think it's really, to me, a beautiful thing when people know very early what they want to do and they set the path, and in spite of obstacles and things, you're not getting into it right away. You stick with it, and you
Yes.
eventually see yourself walking that path. And
Yes.
so that leads us really to tonight's topic about the power of a reset, and why a mid-year check-in is a great time for reflection and for renewal, for realignment. And I think sometimes people get afraid of that realignment or resetting, because it feels like, oh, well, I got to start from zero, or
Mhm.
I've already made so much traction already in this direction, and now to change direction altogether, it can be a scary thing. It could be something that, daunting, because I don't want to have to start over, you
Mhm.
know? So, what does a reset mean to you? And what's a powerful shift that you may have made already for 2025? I'll start with you, Raquel. And Roderick, I'll throw the same question to you. What does a reset mean to you? And what is a powerful shift that you've already made in this year?
So for me, a reset is pretty much like a soul, like recalibrating, like going internal, like becoming to grips with me. Me coming to me and saying, hey, I need to do something to either shift forward, shift left, shift right. It brings me to me. It's almost like a soul recalibration to realign me to what really matters, to redirect me to my purpose. I may have shifted, I may have detoured along the way from January to June. I may have had a detour, and that wasn't a part of the plan in January. So this reset now says I must now reassess my priorities. I need to access or look at these things and say, should I be here? Should I be a little bit further? Then it allows me to also release those things that don't serve me no more. Someone may have pulled me in a direction that I should not have been, and I'm spending so much time focusing on those things. So consider, let's just say, for IT, is someone who goes to their computer and they have all kind of tabs open. You started so much things for the year. You have all these tabs open, but what are you not working on? Go back now and close out some of those tabs. Why? Because your system is slowing down because you got too much things open. So this is where, what for me, the reset says, I need to go back to what really matters. I need to go back to those things, go back to realign me with my truth, realign me with those things that matters for now. Now, mind you, sometimes we set goals at the beginning of the year and we realize that in the middle of the year, that's not really what it was. But for me, and for what we need to understand is a reset doesn't really mean that I failed. A reset doesn't mean that, hey, oh boy, I got to start from scratch. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting with a little bit with some wisdom here. You're starting with some lessons learned under your belt. You're starting over with some wisdom. You're starting over with more than you started with at the beginning. So the reset pulls you back. And for me, the reset, like I said, it realigns you to you. It pulls you to you. It helps you to reassess your priorities and also reignites the purpose that you once started with. Sometimes we get off course and don't even know we so far off course. You're supposed to be on Blue Hill Road, but you detoured one way and you ended up East Street. No, go back to Blue Hill Road. That's the goal. So, and then you said, what is one? Was the second part of the question?
The powerful shift or reset that you made for 2025
So, like
so
I
far.
told Simmone at the beginning of this session, I am currently on a reset. I am on vacation, and I normally, in my July, I normally pull myself back for the reset because now, like any coach, he's not going to allow you to go the full game. and don't allow you to reset or recalibrate, because we got to get back to what really mattered. We got to get back to, okay, this is what we did. This player did this. Oh, next time, don't do that. We have to reassess and put us back in perspective, because we realize we've been doing too much of the wrong things, or too much of something that isn't really benefiting us. So for me, I'm currently on a reset where, well, my local church, we do have a prayer grotto at the church, which is a place where persons come to pray. So I've been for the past, well, just yesterday it started. I go there in the mornings for spend my hour, and I'm like, okay, God, am I where I need to be? What is it I'm supposed to be doing? Like, I'm now seeking not my direction. I'm not even going back to what my beginning goal was. I'm going, God, am I on the right path? Because I don't only want to finish the year. I need to finish the year strong. I need to finish the year further than I was last year. My December needs to look a bit better than my January looked. So I'm pulling back. It's almost like peeling off the layers. Like, okay, I need to see me. I need to see Raquel. I need to see the adjustments that I need to make. I need to stop. I need to pause, and I need to just breathe. Sometimes we go so much. We've been taught to go hard. We've been taught to push. We've been taught to press. We've been taught to don't settle. And all that's well and good. But there comes a time you have to pull back. Pull the superwoman or the superman cape off and say, look, I can't be superwoman today. I can't be Superman today, but Clark Kent needs a breath. He just needs to sit within himself, because if I am not pouring into me, and my reset allows me to pour into me, whether it's word, whether it's reading, I'm currently reading Atomic Habits, but whether it's word, whether it's reading a book, whether it's a podcast, I need to pour into me, because why? I've been pouring all year. At least a dedicated, intentional space to pour into me, so that I can pour into others. I can't, and we can't, we've heard it all the time. We can't pour from empty vessels. We pour so much, and we want to go, because what we're doing, we're pouring out of routine. We're pouring because you might be a speaker and you know how to speak and you got this thing on lock. However, you are depleted as a person. Some persons know when you're pouring from an overflow, or you pouring from, I just heard that last week. There are some people that I can hear their story. Let's use, I have a, no, I won't call her names, but I have a particular person that I love to listen to. She's an international speaker. I could hear the same story every time. I mean, I could tell you what her story is going to be. I could hear them every time, but I'm never like, I'm so sick of this story. Never. I'm never doing it, because I feel as if she's always pouring into herself, or pouring into her community, filling herself with more. So for me, just to wrap this all up, the reset says I need to go, be true to me. I need to release what no longer serves me, and I need to realign myself with my purpose and what really matters. And for me now, it's pouring into me, taking intentional time to breathe, to say, you know what? Fill me up again. Fill me up again, so that I can fill someone else up.
Woo, that is powerful. And you mash all my coins when you talk about all the tabs open, because I'm like, why sis looking at my computer?
Yes.
Roderick, jump in on this. What
Yeah,
does
man.
reset
You
mean
definitely
to you?
hit you
What do
definitely
you
hit a lot of
think?
great points. Definitely hit a
Yes,
lot of great
yes,
points.
yes.
What I would like to add to, what you already shared. And just say personally to me, what I see a reset is just taking a step back. And just taking a step back. Like they usually call it like a 30,000 feet view, just to look at, everything, from a distance, and say, hey, what progress have I made? Or not even just progress, but what setbacks have I encountered? You know, as long as I've been working, like, sometimes we can just be so busy, 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 busy. Say, hey, so what you doing, man? I so busy. We just talk about being busy. But at the end of the day, is results being made? Are you like, do you have the results to show from your busyness? If there's no results, there's something that needs to be adjusted. It has to be something that has to be adjusted. And it would be so sad to see, that it's so good that it's no we're already in July, right? New Year's was just what feels like last week. You know, it would be a pity if you were to go through this whole year and didn't reflect on or actually evaluate ourselves, where we are, where our business is, where are we in our career. It would be a pity if you were to go through this whole year and it comes now going on to 2026 and didn't take the initiative to just evaluate to see where we were, to see what we have accomplished. Did we accomplish our goals, that we set, our personal, vision? It would be a pity if we didn't. So that's why a reset is very important. And that's why, like you say, it means a lot to me, personally. And the second thing you said is a powerful shift that was made, right? It's a powerful shift that I made, this year regarding a reset. And my powerful shift, I actually did this last month. I had to take a trip to home to pretty much do a reevaluation of my business, and that business is a bounce house business, Bravo's Castles and Party Rentals. My brother and I, we're in partnership. Yes, so we have a bounce house business. So holler at your guy if you have any parties, events coming up. Holler at me. Let me hook you up. Let me hook you up. That we've been in business for about a year and a half now, and it's still a growing business, definitely still developing. Mainly because we're supposed to be much further ahead than we are now. But we have some personal, he has some personal interests he's taking care of. Also, I'm as well, but we're making it work. But with that reset, though, what I realized is when we went there, we have the key thing was to be more efficient. How do we become more efficient in setting up, tearing down, like timing ourselves, like, hey, how can we be more efficient to be able to make the best use of our time, to get from one location to the next, because if you losing a whole lot of time, you're losing money, right? Time is money. And once we're able to master that particular thing, there'll be a whole lot more cash flow coming in. And second to that as well is also bouncing ideas from each other, like to and from each other, trying to find out how we can, maximize our what we have, right? Our products. We have a truck. We wouldn't just use that truck to now. This is one idea that came to mind with that. We didn't just use don't just use our truck to transport bouncing houses and rock climbing castles is nothing we capitalize on. Just want to throw that out there. Rock climbing castles and trampolines, we have those as well. But those two those things, the truck isn't just to transport those things. One of the things we were talking about is using the truck, put those things into storage, not using the truck as a storage for them, but putting them in a storage and actually having the truck to go, use as transportation, have it as the transportation service. Just finding ways, just being creative. It's all about creativity. The more creative you are, the more cash flow you could be able to bring in, leverage your assets. And the truck is definitely an asset for us. We want to use it, leverage it the best way we can, to increase our revenue on a monthly basis. But that's how, one of the main things, that I decided to do this year. And one last thing I would like to share is how we can capitalize. Like, one powerful shift that I've made. The second powerful shift I've made is based on the business that I have going on here. Is I decided to invest into a new skill, and this new skill is day trading. Right up. I'm sure you guys can see, all that's going on in the world now, as far as, the economy, a lot of things is definitely shifting, it's like a roller coaster, to be honest. We don't know what tomorrow holds, especially with this war going on, new president, he has a whole lot of, a whole lot in mind, and we want to make sure to capitalize on whatever his decisions is, that we're in the right business to be able to capitalize on that. So that was another huge shift, and I'll dive into that a little later too, just into the details on how I went about making that shift. But yes, that's pretty much what a reset means to me, and the best way to capitalize on it.
Awesome. So that leads me to my next question that I want to ask both of you, because when you talk about being able to reset, it requires a particular mindset, right? Like you have to be able to think a certain way and kind of train your mind, oftentimes to go counter to how you would typically think, right? I found in the space of, with people development in that space, Oftentimes people struggle with limiting beliefs, right? Beliefs about themselves or beliefs about, their worldview, how they see the world, how they see life based on experiences that they've had or things that they never experienced. It causes them to see themselves and see the world around them in a particular way. So when we talk about embracing reset, when we talk about realigning our lives to, you talk about realigning to find yourself. Like sometimes even the language of that can be a block, right? Because we are conditioned to say, well, we get up, we go to work, we do what we got to do. Even if we pour in from this empty cup, you better keep pouring because ain't nobody gonna pour nothing in your cup and you don't gonna have nothing to drink if you don't get out there, right? And all of those actually are mindsets that we are conditioned to think that way. So, what is the kind of mindset that we need to have to embrace the power of resetting, the power of taking a pause, right? We're in a performance culture. It's all about the do, do, do. And the people who are focused on being are seen as people who are maybe weak, right? Or they're just not about anything. It's just all about the doing. So what are some of the things, some of the mindset qualities that we need to be able to embrace resetting and going at it again, or as the word that we heard all through COVID, being able to pivot, being able to change course, change direction, do something different, right? What are your thoughts on that? Raquel, you want to start?
Okay. So for me, I think sometimes we have to unlearn what we've learned for years. We've learned, like I said at the beginning, we've learned to push, we've learned to press. And like I say, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to go hard for what you get. I totally get that. But there comes a time where you have to reframe your own narrative. You have to reframe or recreate your own narrative. We hear a lot. Okay, so we tend to build up a whole scenario in our heads before we even take the step, before we move. But what if I do this? What if but this could happen? This ain't gonna work out. We assess the whole problem and we ain't see the first thing yet. So my first mindset shift would be to unlearn some things that we've learned in our past, and then also to reframe your narrative. There's a quote that says, what if I fail? And then it comes back and says, oh, my darling, but what if you fly? Why do we opt to think the worst first? We think I may not make it. I'm sure I qualify, but at least try first. So for me, the mindset shift beyond unlearning some of the bad habits that we have is to reframe your narrative. Your narrative does not have to be negative. Sometimes it's your words that you are living in. Your words frame your world. And because you keep saying, Lord, when it ain't one thing, it's the next. Tomorrow could be a next because you keep saying, when it ain't one thing, it's the next. You are living out those things that you say. Reframe your narrative, reframe and reshape how you think about things, reframe and reshape how you think about you. You are qualified to move. You are qualified to evolve. You're even qualified to do that without apology. I don't have to apologize to evolve. If I choose to evolve and if I choose to say no, that's my choice. So it's reframing the narrative that we have had all along, that we're not capable. I'm not good enough. I'm not the best at it. I'm not. Reframe that to say, I can and I will. Just take the step. And if you fall, you could fall. You can do that. But what? There's a quote that says, but did you die? You may have a few bruises, but those bruises taught you something, hopefully, along the way. So my encouragement, or the way I would say in terms of shifting your mind, is to, like I said, unlearn some of the poor habits and behaviors and mindsets that we've learned as children, and reframe your own narrative. I can't redefine Simmone's narrative for her. She must wake up one day and say, hey, I could do this. And then you know what? Do it.
That's good. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'd even like to
Yeah, go
add
ahead.
on to that. I'd like to add on to there as well. It is so powerful to know how to adapt. It's really powerful when you know how to adapt, whatever the circumstance may be. You know, once you have that adaptable mindset, no matter, whatever, however the condition your business is in, because you are able to adapt, you'll be able to just align it right back into where it's supposed to be on track. A perfect example would be, let's say clientele, right? You have a set price, and then you realize you have certain clients who, they're a bit on the cheap side, but you want to be able to say, hey, you know something? I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna work with you, especially knowing that your business is in the starting stages, right? Say, hey, I'm gonna work with you so that I could get mine and you still get yours, right? But at the same time, we both win. That's the key thing. The whole thing is looking at the bigger picture. Once you see the bigger picture and you moving forward in that right direction, that's all that matters. And as you progress, for sure, then you could also fine tune those things to remain competitive, right, with whoever you're competing with. You always, of course, want to remain competitive, but at the same time, understand your customer base, understand your clientele, whoever you're providing that product or service to. You want to make sure that you know your customer.
Yes, it is so important to know your customer, know who you're dealing with, know yourself, understand your own habits and tendencies and triggers and things like that, because even in business, when you're looking at pricing, that's one of the biggest struggles that entrepreneurs have.
Oh yeah.
What do I charge? And I think one of the things that we understand when we're talking about resetting is looking at that pricing and looking at, well, maybe I've been lowballing all this time. Maybe it's time to increase these prices or to be at least a bit more marketable. Maybe I've been sucking it up and saying, well, I don't really need to mark up that high. I could break even and it's okay, right? That comes from a mindset too, doesn't
Oh
it?
yeah. Oh yeah. That's so
So
true.
it's really important to have a mindset of growth, a mindset of capacity, a mindset of abundance and not scarcity. Let's talk a little bit about fear. Fear, you talked about, Roderick, learning a new skill. For some people, that could be the scariest thing, especially when they are being made to learn it, right? You did it by choice. And
Hmm.
even sometimes when we do it by choice, because we look at it and we're like, oh, I want to learn how to do that. Then we get into it like, oh, this hard. It's harder than I thought it was going to be. I don't know. Right?
Hmm.
How do we deal with overcoming the fear of either starting over or shifting direction, trying something new? How do we deal with that? What are your tips on handling, overcoming fear, Roderick?
That's a that's a great
Start with you.
question. That's a
Hmm.
great question. Um, I see it as this. Fear is only temporary, right? If you overcome it once, the first time, and you continue, it's going to be easier the second time. It's going to be much easier. So sometimes, I'm sure you all heard the saying where it says you wanna become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Fear is that uncomfortable state. Is that uncomfortable state there. As long as when you jump in, that's like jumping into the deep, right? And learn how to swim. You may know how to swim, but you panic because you panic. That's when you start. That's the main cause of people drowning. They panic. They could know how to swim, but when they see all this thing going around, my wife is a perfect example of that. She can swim, but she's scared. I don't know why she's so afraid, of the deep when she can literally swim from one side to the next. Because of that panic is what caused her to go under. But when we could master that, like when we do it once, right? Do it twice, do it three times. The more you do it, the more comfortable you become. And then you just start flowing. This thing you're mainly fearful of or fearful to do is actually the area that you're thriving in now because you mastered it. You just it's repetition. You just repetition doing it over and over. But the key thing is get it over the first time. It's that first hurdle. It's the first hurdle. Once you get over that first hurdle, it's like, everything else will just be smooth sailing after that. I did want to also share something as far, because you did mention something about pivot earlier. I wanted to touch on
Mhm.
that. That's a very important point there, especially on what's going on. I want to share experience with you guys about something that recently happened here. We know that like I mentioned earlier, Trump is now the president of the United States, and all of this stuff is going on with war, right? We know that China is one of the main enemies, right? And one thing that I started this last year. I did this last year. I started a Amazon business, Amazon selling, where everyone pretty much buy it from there, right? Billions of sales happens on a weekly basis. So with that platform, I started an Amazon business. I made it up to the point where I was ready to purchase my product from China, from a manufacturer in China. I was ready to, just make everything happen. And as soon as this election thing happened, and Trump, of course, started talking about what tariffs, right? Say, hey, you're going to increase the tariffs, what, 100%, 50%, 60%, whatever it was. And that just crushed, that just slowed down everything. And being in a position like that, right? When you don't know what to do now, say, hey, okay, should I still follow through with this deal? It hasn't been solidified yet. Should I still go and purchase the product, or should I, what should I do? You don't know. And that is that at that very moment, I decided, I just looked at the economy, right? Like we talk about with reset. Take a setback, just sit back real quickly, take an overview on, what's going on. And based on this reset now, we looking at the economy. I know that, because of tariffs, the current business I'm in with the Amazon, that's going down. That's not going to. I need to revisit that probably a year from now, or whenever they come up with a settlement or agreement, which they still haven't done yet. So what I had to do was I had to pivot. And this is where I bring that new skill in, talking about what day trading. Because when I take that step back, I realize that with this fluctuating economy, this is actually where day traders thrive, whether the market goes up or it goes down. They make a killing based on their skill. Of course, you have to master the skill, right? And that's pretty much where the investment comes in. But based on the skill you master, you are able to thrive in the midst of crisis. So when there'll always be, whenever there's something where an economy where a form of business is crashing down, or going down the drain, there's one that's really taken off. And you want to be able to be in the know, understand, and like I said earlier, again, adapting from one thing to the next. And of course, it is a lot of fear in there as well. But once you overcome that, I'm at the place where now I could do anything. I could be one thing here, and I could switch tomorrow, just like that. Because I'm just ready. I'm just going and move. I just built to this point, in my life where I could actually turn it on and off quickly. And when you're at that state, you're able to really thrive. No matter what comes your way, you just turn it, you turn it upside down, and you run with it. And that's how you're able to thrive during uncertain times. So we definitely, coming reeling it right back to what you were saying, talking about with fear. You want to be able to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it goes right back to that first step, that first leap. You take that first hurdle, and as you continue to keep hurdling, it becomes easier and easier as the time goes on.
Yes, it's so true. Like I will confess, right? One of my fears, and this may sound very silly, but I have a real fear of heights, right? And as I was digging into it, they were saying it's really a fear of falling. For me, when I think about it, it's a fear of being pushed. So I don't know what psychologically is going on there with me, but I have this real thing. So that type of fear I found is it can be very debilitating
Mm,
because you're only gonna go so far,
that's true.
right? So I just came from a function this evening, right? And the event was on like the second floor of the building, and it's one of these old buildings in Nassau. So there's no elevator. There's just lots of stairs. And then when I ran into someone that worked there, he said, I said, how do y'all make it? He's like, well, a lot of us are in pretty good shape because we have to go up and down these stairs and or all across the grounds and everywhere all the time. He said,
Mm.
so I said, well, what about people who may have a disability or something? So he said, well, we have a lift. So I was like, okay, let's do the lift. When I got to this thing, it's one little box thing. Then you got to press the button and you have to hold the button for the thing to go up and down. So
Uh,
he went in with me and he did it, right? So I felt okay because he was handling it. But
mhm.
when I had to leave, it was just me. And I walked up to this lift thing and I looked through the door because it's all glass. And I was like, oh my gosh, this thing, I almost opened this thing and walked in and crushed myself. I'm
All
like,
good.
oh my goodness, what is this? I said, but
Mhm.
I don't want to go down all these stairs. So I'm like, you got to figure this out, girl, and you got to get over this fair. So I'm here figuring out how does this lift thing work. I pressed the button and the thing came up real slow. And I got in. I was like, God, help me to get down. And so imagine if
Um,
I was afraid of heights, claustrophobic,
oh my
all these
goodness.
other fears, right, that just come crashing down. Like, I would have been a mess in that thing,
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
call the
But
ambulance for
you're
you.
right. You have to, yeah. You'd have seen me going down those stairs till tomorrow, right? But it just goes to that point of taking that first step, taking that first step. Even if you're afraid, you have to take that first step, however you got to do it. You know, if you got to do it,
Mhm.
just psyching yourself up, however you got to do it, right? Raquel, how do you overcome fear?
So for me, well, I'm claustrophobic. So let me put that there. I don't know how I want to make. I'm not too
But I
afraid of
think you would
heights,
have,
but I'm claustrophobic. Listen, but
that thing was only about 3, 4 feet wide.
what? No. At work, I don't do the elevators. I just do. I'm not afraid of that. I mean, I'll go in the elevators, but because they've had some challenges a few times, I've not been in them for months.
Wow.
I'll take the stairs. But for me, what I've found is, or what I've learned to do is use my fear as a catalyst, as opposed to something that's tried to stifle me. And then understand some persons now they must understand or find what your fear is based on. Some persons fear based on trauma, past trauma, or is it a fear based on some truth? But we hope we're held hostage, where we in a chokehold with fear, sometimes because of past experiences that maybe have been negative. So some persons have, if I can say, a valid reason to be fearful of a thing. However, that is not to stifle your growth. That is not to stifle your movement. Like Roderick said, you must take the first step. And in order to, like I was explaining to someone last week, you cannot overcome something if you're not willing to deal with it. Like they say, you cannot conquer what you're not willing to confront. If I'm not going to confront this thing, I will never conquer it. I will never move over it. I will never be in a space that I'm able to say, okay, I'm doing it one step at a time. It's not going to be a day thing. It's not going to be maybe a month, not even a year. But the fact that you are willing to say, you know what? I'm going to allow my fear to fuel me to just take the step. Allow the fear. We're not moving through life fearless. Some people like, well, I fearless. No. Allow that fear to fuel you to do something that you may not have done ordinarily. Allow your fear to keep you going. Allow your fear to even humble you to a point.
Mm.
And then the last thing I would say is, let fear not be considered as your enemy. Allow fear to be an energy that's going to drive you. It ain't your enemy. Sometimes we need to be scared. Sometimes we need to, and they always say, do it scared. Sometimes we need to be fair, because we could go out and be like, oh no, I'm scared of nothing. I'm not this. I'm good. But are you really? And we
Mm.
allow our norms, or we allow what we're accustomed to, or we allow the familiarity of life to cause us to go in spaces that we should really be fearful of. We should really have a level of fear. So allow your fear to be energy for you, as opposed to be something that's your enemy or you despise. So for me, it's like I use it as a catalyst. Like I said, I don't like small spaces. I'm claustrophobic. I manage it internally in a lot of times when I have to, but I'm not Like I know this lady, she's not been in an elevator for how much ever, like years. I'm not that bad. I internally talk to myself. This ain't gonna kill you. I go on the plane. There's a my pastor always said before when he like when he goes up into the plane, he said, God, I got purpose on my life. Purpose preserves life. This plane coming up and it's going down because I on it. So I tell myself if I go into a plane or wherever it is, ain't nothing gonna happen here because I on this and I have purpose.
Right.
My purpose is not done yet.
That's right.
So I talk to myself. I reprogram how I think or how I see it. And I use the fear as my catalyst sometimes to just take the step. Even if it's changed my thought pattern, because my thoughts could kill me. My thought, because of the fear, it
Ooh,
can cripple me. So that's what I do. I talk to myself and I have an internal conversation with me. And I said, girl, you better catch yourself. Ain't nothing happening here. A little turbulence, but guess what? This plane going up and it's coming down because I on this.
I am telling you, I am telling you, I hope that you all in our audience tonight really are getting all of these nuggets. This is really, really good stuff, really good viewpoints. And there's so much that you both have said, but that bit about trauma just stuck out to me because it's so funny how when we have these sessions that everything leading up to it kind of confirms why we're doing it, right? And so today I was at an appointment and the service provider, she looked up at me, right? And then I don't know how I looked back at her, but she was like, "What?" Right? She looked at me like, and she said, "What?" So I was like, what? You know, you look like you were going to say something to me. And she's like, no. She said, I just looked at you. She said, but you looked at me like, you know, something was going to happen. So I was like, oh my gosh. I said, I guess that was a trauma response, right? Because just being in HR, like you're always bracing yourself for something. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I had, like, I guess, put my game face on when she looked at me. Like, I already had tensed up and was just bracing myself or whatever she was coming with. And it wasn't even like that, you know? And that's how we are when we get in situations. We kind of build up this whole defense mechanism of this is going to hurt me. I'm going to fail, or something about this is wrong. I'm not keeping up with other people around me, whatever it may be. So, when we talk about these types of things, and we're talking about it from a personal standpoint, I want to ask this question now from the place of a leader. How do you help other people journey through these things? How do you help people on your team
That's good.
have a pivoting mindset or being able to embrace change and to deal with and I'm finding in the workplace change is happening so rapidly to the point where people have, I think, change fatigue, you know, because the minute you start getting used to something, something's changed again. Like you can't seem to get your brain around it fast enough. You know, the pace of life and the way things come at you. And maybe that was my response to her because it's like you're just so accustomed to things coming at you all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, how do you help people on your team and even your family members? You know, you're both,
Yeah.
you know, have children and whatnot. Um, how how do you help the people around you to embrace the power of the reset?
You want me to go first?
Yes,
All right.
we tag team and we tag team it.
Yes, yes. And that's a great question. That is so good because I literally lived that out recently. I realized that the best way to do it is to first do it with them. Like you get in, you jump in the boat with them, and you just ride together. You share. You literally just do the task with them. And when you're doing it with them, they're more comfortable because you're there first of all. They can relax and as you do things you can now another good trick what I realized is you now ask them questions. You now empower them. Now that you're doing for them, you now ask them questions or say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Allow them to start speaking and putting I call it buy-in. Give them an opportunity to buy in so that they be like, oh, okay, he values my opinion or he values my input. And when they're sharing, even though you already know the answer in your mind, you are getting them involved so that when they give their input, they're now empowering themselves, right? They're now removing that fear. They pretty much may still be fearful at that moment, but as they start speaking and you're doing the task together, they're now being empowered to say, "Hey, you know what? This ain't bad. Like I can actually do this. And it's not hard at all." And this is another there's a statement I wanna share that I also learned from that same network marketing way back years ago. And it says this this is how you empower somebody or help them to pretty much become independent. You first, okay, they watch you do it. That's the first thing, right? So you do it for them, which them watching you, and then you do it together, right? And then you watch them do it, and then they teach someone how to do it. So with those 4 steps right there, that's pretty much the level of empowerment right there. First, you do it for them. So they're watching you do it, then you guys do it together, and then you watch them do it. And because you're there, you'll be able to help critique if there's any, things that they need to sharpen up on. That's your opportunity to help them there. Just even though they already on their way, and then when they're now able to do it themselves, they can now teach somebody. That's the highest level, I believe, right there, where when you could teach someone how to do something, that means that you've mastered it yourself, and as you teach, you're also learning. Even when you teach, it's an ongoing development. So that's what I would say, as far as really helping someone, building them up to be leaders themselves.
Yeah, I think people really appreciate leaders who can get in the trenches with them, you
Mm,
know, show how to do, show that, I'm not in this ivory tower and just giving commands and you do these things, but showing that you're human as well. I think that
mm.
human side of leadership is very, very important.
Mhm.
Amen. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Raquel, what about you?
So for me as a leader, two things. I would say I like to try to shift their mindset as opposed to their behavior, because if I change your mindset, your behavior will somehow follow the positive or the shift in your mindset, because we don't always, we try to change a behavior, but then they're still stuck in this old mindset of doing something. So changing the mind helps them to now realize, okay, what's the things that's holding me back? It now helps them to question a few things. What's been holding me back all this time? Who's holding me back, or why can't I evolve? It helps them now again to come to grips with self. So them asking themselves a shift or questions that would shift their mind helps them to move or shift the behavior. And then the second thing for me is pretty much creating a safety space for them to, I guess, to fall. So it's creating safety for them to stretch. So where they may rise and fall, I'm creating a safe space for you to now get back up, get back up. I'm here to get you back up on, get back on the right space, not to be judgmental of you evolving, because not everybody's going to evolve at the same pace on the right day. And then we're not going to do that all at the same time. So making them feel as if this is a safe space to grow, to evolve, to stretch and be a part of this process. But I need your mindset to shift first before your behavior is able to pattern after. So those are two things that I try to get into persons. Let's change why you're thinking this way. What's the thought process and why you're thinking that this is too much for you or you can't do certain things? Why you feel like if I'm not qualified to evolve? Let's change that first, and then maybe your behavior will change after. And then creating the safe space for you to stretch, for you to fall, for you to get up, for you to run, for you to fly. That would be.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And I can't believe we're already at the 8 o'clock hour. This has been such a wonderful conversation with both of you. I'm really, really happy that we did this. Um, So let's talk about reflections as we move to a close. What do you think will now anchor you for the second half of this year in terms of a personal reset? So this is where you're at the midpoint. You're both in different places and spaces in terms of your personal reset. What is going to propel you for the second half of the year? Is it the same thing that you're focusing on now and just kind of working it and growing it? Or do you think it's something else that you're going to have to reset for the second half of 2025?
So for me, I think it's more of like I love the word intentional. I try to be intentional in a whole lot of areas, but along the way you fall off with some procrastination and all different type of stuff. So for me, the second half of the year, because I've already said at the beginning of the year where would I want to be at the end in December 2025. So I know now for me there has to be a level of intention that drives me to do what I need to do those things that are a must to get me to where I need to be. And me being the person who loves to write and the affirmations and stuff, because I do, like she said, I do have the affirmation, but I've written already some affirmations to take me to the end of my year. So I'm holding myself to my word, or holding myself true to the words that I want to speak. So I'll just read three of the affirmations that I have coined for my end of year. So the first one is, I will trust the timing of my becoming, because I found that sometimes I feel as if I off time. I'm off, like, oh, I should be doing this now. I should be, but I'm going to now trust the timing of my becoming. And that doesn't mean become lax, or that doesn't mean even slow down. That means, hey, get in the game, get back in, reset, and move forward. The second one I have coined, I said, I release what was to receive what is meant. So whatever I receive was meant for me. Sometimes we feel as if, oh, that wasn't for me. Oh no, sometimes God don't make mistakes. He don't miss. So you may have a delay, you may have a detour, you may have a distraction, but God don't miss. He does not miss. So use that as, okay, that was meant for me. Now, what's the lesson in this that I'm going to use now to move forward? And the third one, I've coined was, I am safe to evolve, and my expansion honors who I've been and who I'm becoming. So the space that I need to get to, I have to put myself in an intentional, like, you know what, I deserve this. Like, sit in that space of, I'm deserving of this, and I'm going to get there. So my expansion honors that person, and that same person that Raquel is going to be in 2020, in December 2025.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. I was like, you got to share those affirmations. They're really good.
Mm,
One that I use a lot is, I belong here. I belong here. Sometimes you get in spaces where, you may be faced with intimidating behaviors, or, you know, you just don't feel welcome for many reasons, right? And so when you settle and say, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, I belong, I belong, and I belong here, you know? So affirmations really, really help. I think they help to alleviate the panic that you talked about earlier, Roderick. The panic isn't just about swimming. We feel that panic and that anxiety, in so many different ways. And I
yeah.
find that affirmations help to calm that sense of
Mm.
panic that we feel in different settings. So that's really good. What about you? What's going to anchor you for the year as you move forward?
Yeah, the phrase that would anchor me for the rest of this year is very simple. Get it done. Get it
Hey,
done.
you're a
That's my
man of
motivation
action.
right there. That's it. That's it. You put your mind to it and just follow through, get it done. Because what I like so much, because this is the second half of the year, there's a deadline, right? If you already set a goal, I do not like missing goals. If I set a goal, I'm gonna meet that goal. That's it. Point blank. Period. If I meet it, I'd be really mad at myself. But that's the kind of accountability you have to have. And once you have that, whether it be, we have so much personal goals. The business. Because if you look at it, our business, the whole reason for our business, right, is to eventually take care of us personally, so we can have, be it financial freedom. But that's my personal vision. Some people have nonprofits, and that the business in itself is the vision for their nonprofit. But the real reason behind everything I do is financial freedom. I want to be financially free, so I don't have to focus on working for nobody, but I want to be able to do the work of the Lord. I just want to have that freedom to do His will no matter what. I want to be available for Him. I don't want to have nothing else hindering me from that. And the best way is to, go all out now while I'm young. Go hard now. Get it done so that, when it's done, I can now rest in Him and do His work. He got a lot of work for me to do. I thought it now is
Yes.
a lot of work, but it's just the beginning. It's so
It
much.
is. It is. It is. And that's why he tells, the young men to go out, go hard at it. That's when you got the energy, you got the drive, you got the passion.
Yes.
I saw a movie a couple of weeks ago that was very, very profound for me. And I'm hoping that I can do a men's event around it. But I don't know if you saw it, but it was called The Forge. The
Yes.
Forge.
Oh, that was so powerful.
Oh,
Oh my
wasn't that
God.
powerful? But
Yes.
it just
Oh.
shows you at different stages of life the work that needs to be done, and even
Yes.
though, and I don't want to talk the movie and spoil it for anyone else, but even when you're in business, even when you are elevating as a leader, it's the power of mentorship and discipleship and ministry, marketplace ministry.
Yes.
His business wasn't just a business. His business fueled ministry that was
Yes.
important to him. And
Right.
he also made space to be a mentor and to disciple, right? I mean, it was just so powerful,
That was
so many
powerful.
powerful messages in that movie. And I really want to see how I can get that shown here in Nassau. I think it's just so impactful, but it just
Mm,
shows us that there's always ministry, there's always work to be done, and we got to get it done. If we don't do it,
mm-hmm.
then there are people who will be lost
Mm,
because we haven't gotten it done,
that's so
because we
true.
can't get out of our own heads,
Yeah.
because we're still afraid, or we're still talking ourselves out of
Wow. Our
you
life is
know
on our own. We got to submit to Him. Yeah. That's real.
Yes, absolutely. And so thank you for those of you that came out tonight. Yvette, thank you so much for being here. You said this is an awesome reset conversation, and you shared, what you do. You're asking yourself, where am I truly headed? What do I see myself achieving in the next half of 2025, going into 2026 in my business, personal, and professional life? These are important questions. They're big questions, but we want to ask them with grace. Ask them, from a space of, you know, what is my capacity to do
Mm,
for the rest of this year? You may only have one thing left to do for the rest of this year that you really want to do. I put for my affirmation for the rest of the year, focus on what's necessary, right? So that means I got to exit out all of these tabs, all of these excess things that I'm holding on and wanting to do. Maybe you don't need to do all of those things. Focus on what's necessary,
that too.
and that's it. See Eska Adderley McPhee, thank you. She says, I appreciate all of you. I needed to hear this. I know you did. I know you did. And so I just want to encourage all of you who are tuning in, whether you're listening to the replay or you're here tonight, you know, just embrace the power of a reset. Use this mid year time to just realign, reset, refresh, renew, whatever it is that you need to do to strengthen yourself to move forward. So I'll leave the last couple of minutes for our special guests, Roderick McKenzie Jr. and Raquel Mins, to just share your closing thoughts. Sieska says, my affirmation is, I am enough.
And you are.
Yes, I am enough. Vanessa says, this was inspiring for a refresh and reset. Thank you all. Awesome. Hi, Dr. Kitty. We got to get you on this webinar. But I know as givers, it's also good to sit and receive. And so thank you so much for being present with us tonight. Excellent guideposts for a positive reset, Dr. Kitty says. Chantel, good to have you. I took all that was for me. Timely and inspiring topic. Thank you so much, everyone. So closing thoughts, lady and gent. We release everyone to the rest of their Tuesday.
So very quickly, my closing thought for the limitless leaders on the call tonight, I would just say your reset is important. Your reset allows you to reclaim authorship of your own life, of your own story. And if you need to change the plot, if the plot needs to change, plot twist. And so what? But it's time for a reset. You cannot go, go, and go. There must be a time where you pause, reflect, refuel, and say, you know what? Give me this pen back. Let me start writing my story again. And if the plot has to change, it's a plot twist, but I'm not done. I just could start a little bit different, or start at a different chapter, or start maybe even in a different book. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's restarting and getting it to the end. So don't despise where you have to start from. At the end of the day, it's giving yourself the grace to evolve to who you are meant to be. Thank you so much, Simmone.
Thank you, Raquel. Oh, this is so good. Thank you so much. Roderick, what say you?
Yes, yes, that was so good. Yes, I would also like to close and say whatever everything you're doing, right? No matter what it is. We spoke about, pivoting. We spoke about it's so many things we have spoke about tonight, as far as going to reset. In the midst of all of that, I just want y'all to make always, no matter what, never forget, putting God first through it all, because without him, you're doing everything for nothing, right? If he's in the center, you're going to be busy and not productive. He's going to, at the end of the day, if it isn't purpose driven, it's like all of the work you're doing is like it's like you're working without a purpose, because he should be your ultimate purpose at the end of the day. And once he's your ultimate purpose, and once you find that, it's kind of like a fueling that comes in you, because he provides it now. To be honest, I realize it myself. Sometimes I would try to do things. Remember at the very beginning when I was mentioning, I had my will, but he had his will. I was doing things, just doing, working, 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 working. But no matter what I did, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. It was like all of my work. It was the very first job I had over here. I worked my butt off. It was my will. I was trying to do things, and you could believe at the end of the day, my boss pretty much was like, "Yeah, yeah, you did good. Yeah, yeah." But because in the process, right? Because of the process of it all, the way he responded to me, he was like, even though I put in all that work, it was like it was nothing, and I was like, God, you just showing me that this isn't where I need to be. God was just revealing my purpose to me. So he's like, hey, stop putting all your energy in these things, on earth. Put it in me, and I will guide you to the very end. I will show you the way. I will guide you to the light. So whatever God's will is for your life, if you don't know it, ask him for it. And when he reveals it to you, make sure that you just put all of your heart and focus into it, because you're going to thrive beyond measure. You're just going to take off. Why? Because you're doing his will. It's that simple. What it say, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. All these other things will be added. It's just plus. I just call it pluses, because you're doing his will. So yeah, that's my closing remark there. That reflection is make sure that you're in the will of God, no matter what you're doing. Because if you're not in the will, you're gonna be busy and you're not gonna be productive.
Ooh, my. And we don't want to be about doing busy work. We don't want to be here just spinning on the hamster's wheel, not going anywhere, tiring ourselves out and then asking ourselves at the end of the day, for what? Right?
Amen.
Let all of our actions be aligned with God's will and his purpose for our lives, and everything else will make sense. It will make sense. And we'll feel more content with where we are, where we're going, who we are, evolving and revealing to the world, right? Because even though we say becoming, we already are. We have been sent to the planet exactly the way God wants us to be. We're only refining, this person, our character, our mindsets, our actions. Yes, I am. We have been already sent, equipped, tooled, right? We're just refining and evolving and revealing who we are to be in this planet and what we're here to do. And so I just want to encourage you. Um, there's a quote that says that in order to get to a beginning, there must be a necessary ending. And so
Mm.
even though a reset feels like something has to come to an end, it's only a passageway to get to something new.
Wow. That's so good.
It's just a passageway. And what we do is we want to honor that ending. We want to honor what brought us to that place, that season of life, that relationship, that friendship, that job. We want to bless it, honor it. Thank you for bringing me to this point. I must leave you now, and I'm embracing this new thing that's going to take me a little higher, a little deeper into God's will, you know? So, yes, we grieve what is gone, but we also rejoice for what is to come, right? Joy comes in the morning. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. So, I want to encourage you, limitless leaders, do what you must, but take the time to reset, realign, and keep it moving for 2025 and beyond, knowing that you have a God who loves you and you have a community of people here at Limitless Life who are also here to journey with you. We have people who are journeying through some very, very tough things in our community, but we're here to be a support and to help you as you continue to go out there and be great in the world. So thank you so much for being out here tonight. Thank you to Roderick. Thank you to Raquel. I am so excited. I am looking forward to this Limitless conference or something we need to have with all these amazing people.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to come. We need to come to Orlando though.
Right?
Let's do it. Whatever. Let's do it.
Yes, we coming to Orlando for this Limitless Leaders conference. I can speak it into being.
Amen.
That's it.
But thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you. Good evening.
You too. Good evening all.
Good evening.